So, as we continue to cover all of college football recruiting news today, we need to focus in on one player. A player we've talked about here on the channel several times, and a player whose battle is really starting to heat up. And of course, today we're previewing the number one running back in the nation, Taylor Tatum, and the battle between USC and Oklahoma as it really starts to heat up. But before we can jump into all of that, y'all know the drill. I've got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me an O for Oklahoma or a U for USC. Where do you believe Taylor Tatum ends up? Can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small, but they truly are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. And we are less than 800 subscribers away from our 20,000 subscriber mark. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And before we dive too deep into this, we first need to ask and answer the question, who is Taylor Tatum? Well, Taylor Tatum is one of the most gifted prospects in the class of 2024, regardless of position, and he comes in as a top 50 prospect in the nation, specifically the number 33 player in the nation, the number 1 running back, and the number 9 player in the state of Texas, all per the 24/7 Sports composite. He stands 5'10.5", 205 pounds, and when you watch his film, he is a versatile running back, a really well-rounded running back prospect. This is the type of guy that can pretty much well fit in any offense because he can do everything well, which I am always really enamored with because it provides so much flexibility for your running back room. You know you have a guy that can get out there and do a lot of things successfully, and it gives you a lot of options in your offense. But now we need to focus on the two teams that are really pushing for Taylor Tatum, because for those of us that have got to sit back and observe this recruiting battle, it's been a lot of fun, and it's going to continue to be a lot of fun until pen hits paper. But one thing we need to understand, a decision could be coming sooner rather than later, and that could be massive for one of these teams. First, we'll start off with USC, because not long ago, Taylor Tatum had a visit with the Trojans that he absolutely loved per several reports. And at the time that visit had concluded, many people were wondering, did USC just jump out ahead? And that was really reinforced whenever crystal ball predictions started flying in favor of the Trojans for Taylor Tatum. So much so that even when Taylor Tatum first got to Oklahoma for the Champ U barbecue visit, crystal ball predictions were still being inserted for USC for the number 1 running back in the nation. And one thing we need to understand, USC with Lincoln Riley is going to have a high-powered offense. They're going to get their running backs involved, so it makes sense whenever we see offensive playmakers be curious about what USC has to offer. We know what Lincoln Riley does on the offensive side of the ball. And to go further, running back coach Keel McDonald just went in the state of Texas and landed a very talented 4-star running back the cycle before. So USC has shown the ability to walk into the state of Texas and get a very talented running back. So to me, this was absolutely a situation we had to watch as it pertained to Taylor Tatum. You had Lincoln Riley, who has an offense that many people want to be involved with, and then you had Keel McDonald, who'd already been successful recruiting running backs in the state of Texas. And if he enjoyed his visit, might be tough to get him away from the Trojans. But that's exactly what Oklahoma has appeared to do. Because coming into the Champ U barbecue visit, me and Jay had talked about this as well as PG, and we were all talking about this is a big opportunity for Oklahoma with Taylor Tatum. And Caden Durham as well. That's a conversation for another day. Another very talented running back who is speed personified. We'll talk about that at a later date, though. For now, let's continue our conversation on Taylor Tatum. Look, one thing we had to acknowledge that Oklahoma always had in its favor is proximity. And for some of these kids, that means something. Some of these guys don't mind if they leave their home state and go play somewhere far away because they want to experience something new in life. And if that's the case, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But so too is it the case that if a prospect wants to stay closer to home so that they can have that relationship with their family can come watch them play, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that either. And for Taylor Tatum, luckily, there are several top-tier programs around him. He has plenty of options. And when we look at the Oklahoma Sooners, one thing we have got to understand is something I talk about consistently whenever we're talking about running backs as it pertains to Oklahoma. DeMarco Murray is an ace. And the reason why I've always said that is because I imagine it's really hard to turn down that pitch. And I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a running back who's sitting in 5-star status, a running back that has NFL dreams in front of him, and into the living room walks DeMarco Murray. And he looks at you and says, I've been through your process. I was where you were not long ago. I was a recruit. I went through the recruiting process. I made the transition from high school football to college football, made that successfully, balled out at the college level, and then made the transition from college football to the NFL. And on top of that, he can then look at the parents and say, oh yeah, by the way, my parents were you. They went through this process as well. I've gone through every aspect of this. And oh, the cherry on top, you may ask, not only have I done it as a player, I have now been able to successfully point to multiple instances of me doing this as a coach, successfully recruiting somebody, developing them, and then helping them get to the NFL stage. That's something DeMarco Murray can now boast as a coach, as well as his experience as a player. Now, I might be crazy in this, but to me, that is a compelling pitch. Someone who has been in your shoes, someone who understands the grind that it's going to take to get you to the next level because they themselves went through and embraced the grind. That's a compelling pitch in my opinion, a pitch I've always been interested in with these running backs think of. And coming off of this Champ U barbecue visit, it seems that pitch has absolutely helped the Oklahoma Sooners. Because as we talked about earlier, before Champ U Barbecue, and even during the early stages of Champ U Barbecue, crystal ball predictions were going in favor of the USC Trojans. However, that ceased, and now we see crystal ball predictions flying in favor of the Oklahoma Sooners. And as I just alluded to, there's no doubt that DeMarco Murray has been a major force in this battle, but there's another force that we have got to acknowledge. And that's Oklahoma's baseball team and head coach Skip Johnson, which is really interesting whenever we consider that in the class of 2023, USC landed a 5-star tight end in Deuce Robinson, who looks to be a two-sport athlete that will play baseball and football. But for Oklahoma, Skip Johnson and the Oklahoma baseball team could be a major reason why Taylor Tatum chooses the Sooners. Remember, James Nesta, a linebacker they just got that we just talked about yesterday, phenomenal baseball player who also plays football, who committed to Oklahoma to be a two-sport athlete. That is big for the Oklahoma Sooners, being able to get these players to have faith that, hey, being a two-sport athlete is incredibly difficult. We talk about that on the channel all the time, how difficult it is, first and foremost, to be a college football player and a college student, not to mention being a college football player, a college baseball player, and a student. That's really difficult. But if you have a university that can show you a game plan of how to successfully do that, that's got to be a compelling pitch. So if you start looking around, it's compelling pitch after compelling pitch. And I was super interested in the baseball aspect because USC had just landed a 5-star, and as far as I know, the game plan is for him to be a two-sport athlete, something we have to see. So USC has shown to have the capabilities of landing a guy that wants to play both football and baseball, so I was really interested. We know Oklahoma has successfully done it in the past. They've had two-sport athletes. With USC being able to get a prospect and say they would do it, this Taylor Tatum battle was one I was absolutely watching. But as I've said several times, coming off of Champ U Barbecue, it seems that DeMarco Murray, Brent Venables, and Skip Johnson may have done really, really solid work. So what does this all mean? It seems like a giant game of will he, won't he? Well, if Taylor Tatum is to make his decision sooner rather than later, no pun intended, that massively helps the Oklahoma Sooners. And if you read the tea leaves, if you listen to people in the know, many feel like a decision could come down this week. And if that's the case, Oklahoma looks to be in a phenomenal position for the nation's #1 running back. And that would be a massive jolt to that recruiting class, especially such a big-time prospect who just got done visiting during Champ U Barbecue making that decision. But remember, linebacker James Nesta said just a few days ago that there are several silent commits to the Oklahoma Sooners from guys that were at Champ U Barbecue, and he expects those to be announced here shortly. And I'm really intrigued as to who they could be. If Taylor Tatum is one of them, it seems that we'll find out sooner rather than later. Once again, no pun intended. However, if the announcement gets pushed back, that gives USC the opportunity to counter, and that could be something we have to watch. But all indications to me would show that the decision could happen this weekend. So it's absolutely something we have to watch. Now, look, I've said this before. I'm going to continue saying this. I love recruiting. I love recruiting because it gives us these entertaining battles, these battles where the nation's #1 running back has two powerful football programs vying for his attention. But I also love the storylines it creates. And though OU and USC may not be traditional rivals, we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge there's something there right now. Whenever Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma for USC, it created a quasi-rivalry, if you will. Maybe not on the field, but between the fans. And so now anytime we have these scenarios wherever Oklahoma and USC are battling it out for the nation's #1 running back, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be there, I'm going to be watching, and it is going to be a must-see recruiting battle. We will, of course, be talking about wherever Taylor Tatum decides to attend college. We'll be making a video on that. Can't wait to see you over there. Until then, hop down to the comments. Where do you think Taylor Tatum ends up? Can't wait to hear from you. That's it. See ya.